We'll try to adjust that, try to get it a little bit better. Okay, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School, Islam to all the Moors. All right, so we are in the free, or welcome rather, to the free astrotheology class. All right, so I'm sure there are in this class the gospel and the zodiac. The gospel and the zodiac, the secret truth about JC, the Christ figure. The author of our textbook here is Bill Darrell-El. So in this class, we already have, I'm sure, more than 100 hours of astrotheology lectures or presentations, whatever you want to call it. Already over 100, probably well over 100, I'm sure. Some of the chapters and topics were between, it took, I think, some are as many as 20, or a couple are as many as 20 or 21, I think, 19, 20, 21 videos just on one. And most of the videos, I believe, are at least around an hour. Some are more. Some may be less, but not much less than an hour. All right, so I'm pretty sure there are already well over 100, maybe even 200 hours. If I get a chance, if I remember, I'll calculate it. I'll add it up. Some videos are hour and a half, 2 hours. I tried to shorten the length of the video, even though that was done at the request of a few scholars. But to get the most viewers from what I've been reading, you need to do a live stream that's at least like 3-4 hours. I might start doing that again. Actually, that's more comfortable for me because I don't have to rush. I can spend time on topics that I want to. All right, and then it's just my nature to take my time. And I can go, I can go. I'm not going to get tired. All right, I have the academic discipline to go 72 hours. I've done it. Teaching, presenting, you name it. Seeing patients, giving presentations, you name it, I've done it. Preparing paperwork, preparing presentations, giving, like I said, I've done it all. My max is 72 hours. But of course, that's not to boast, because studies showed that your decision-making skills, at least in a clinical setting, they deteriorate rapidly. I think it's after 10 hours or 12 hours. I don't remember. I've been out of medicine for a while. But anyway, I can go. So 4 hours is nothing to me. 4 hours will go by like 5 minutes for me. Or 4 hours does go by like 5 minutes for me. Okay, y'all, so we're actually in video number 8. So this is our 8th video or presentation. And who is the man with the jug of water? I hope y'all have been learning and enjoying the information that I'm presenting here. But I don't claim this information, that this is not my information. The author put this together. I'm giving you my commentary, my analysis. All right, so here's the link, here's the book, The Gospel and the Zodiac, The Secret Truth About JC, the Christ Figure. And the author is Bill Darrell-El. And I put the link to the free PDF in the description area of this video. All right. I also put the link to the Devil's Pulpit. These are foundational documents that everyone should have and study if you want to be able to understand astrotheology. All right. So these are the foundational books. I also put a link or links to my books that I have written and published on Ancient Ibaryath. All right, so when you get into the Devil's Pulpit, you'll start to, the author, Robert Taylor, will start showing you Ibaryath words written in biblical Hebrew characters. They look like modern Hebrew characters or pictographs. And he starts to present these words and their etymological meanings. Okay, and from the etymological meanings, he gives you insight into what those words actually mean. So there's the denotative meaning of the word. And then there's the connotative meaning of the word, which you, Tom and Mary, Joe, Pookie and Noki, Ray Ray. Y'all know I got brothers. I got a brother named Pookie and a brother named Noki, okay? And I had a cousin named Ray Ray. So we've been giving what's called connotative meaning of these words, and it is these crafted meanings, these connotations that are used to, one, separate us from reality. What is reality? Reality is nature. And used to ignite us or to encourage us to transport ourselves into a fake mythological story. What's this process called, y'all? That's called, or what is this phenomena called? It is narrative transportation. So the author of the Devil's Pulpit does a fine job in presenting this concept, the linguistic principle, to us, and showing you how they use it in a magical way to how they cast a spell. Okay, you can call it magic or cast a spell. He even shows you the incantations, or many incantations, many spells, spelling, changing the meaning of words, right? Giving it a connotative information. Where you're saying one thing, you're speaking. Remember, what you speak gets manifested, right? Y'all Christians say, declare it and claim it, or something like that. Okay? So they're using natural phenomena and you yourself against you, right? They're using it against you. Why? Because natural law will go against you. Okay? Natural law will go against you. All right? Why? Because language is a science. Language is a science. All right? Language is a science. It is natural. Language is natural. So when you start to violate or not respect, overlook, be indifferent to language, you're actually putting yourself in a position where you are acting out of harmony with natural law, and the law of cause and effect will become visible in your life if you pay attention to the principles or laws that govern the universe, all right? These fundamental principles, the Hermetic laws or principles. There are 7. but actually just one. Actually, there's one law. There's one law, but it expresses itself in 7 different ways. Y'all got that? Okay, so now I have a list of the Hermetic laws, the 7 expressions of that one law that's called or referred to as the Hermetic Principles or laws of nature. I have a list of them in the description area of this video. There's also in the description area of the video some of, but not all of, the lawful or natural law concepts and principles that I will write back into, that have been taken out of the book of law, and that I'll write back into the book of the law, right where they appear. And I'll do it in a way that's easy to understand. All right, modern English, easy to understand, easy to comprehend. All right, so that's one of the things I'm going to do for you and for us as a people, is to put all of the natural law back in there. I have a list of those. Doesn't include everything, but it's a list. Okay, so there's natural phenomena, then there's the laws or principles that govern the natural phenomena or their expression. Constitutional law, trust law, estate law, Escheat. This is what's being done to us and has been done to our ancestors as part of the curses. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15 through 68. Bills of attainders rather, and bills of attainder. Attainder and bills of attainder rather. So I'm going to cover that. These are things that have been done and that are presently being done against us. Public policy, for example, the black codes, Jim Crow, children and family services, the entire administrative process, Article 1 courts, right? Mortgages, all of these things. Driver's licenses, professional licenses that say you cannot work unless you get a license. Right? All of these things. Bills of attainder. Okay. Other instances of birthright theft. But there's a lot. Okay. But I'm going to put all of this stuff back in there. There's something else that comes to my mind, but it's at the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember right now. Anyway, it'll come to my mind. So I'm about ready to get started. Oh, by the way, so if you want to support yourself, learn Ancient Ibaryath. I have Ancient Ibaryath books, a live online class, and a streaming class. The links are in the description area of the video. Remember, you're responsible for educating yourself, not your moire, your pastor, your reverend, your rabbi, your chief, your captain, your husband, your man or your woman, your consort, your husband or your wife. You are responsible for educating yourself. That's the natural law. And your failure to do so puts the law of cause, or let me rephrase that. You will obtain the consequences. The consequences will chase you and follow you wherever you go. This is why another expression of Deuteronomy chapter 28. All right, these natural laws Don't yield. They're immutable. You cannot prevent, you can't press pause. All right, you cannot press pause. They will chase you and follow you no matter where you go on planet Earth or in the cosmos, if you could. Okay, you will get the consequence of not educating yourself. It's not going to fall on your man or your woman. It's going to fall squarely on you. You're responsible for defending yourself, self-defense. That's not the responsibility of any policy enforcer or 911. You're responsible to defend and protect yourself. And your failure to do so, will bring that consequence on you and probably other people whom you love or those around you, right? Self-defense is a personal responsibility. Education is a personal responsibility. This is very different from what we are taught, right? In class, in schools, and in Christianity. Very different. Which explains why Christianity and the public school system is intended to separate you from nature. So you cannot take let's say a plant that grows on the land and put it in the ocean and expect it to grow. Eventually it will what? It will die. Why? Because it's outside of nature. Its natural environment is disconnected from what it needs to grow and thrive. Y'all see it? The same way you are disconnected from nature. And therefore, you are suffering and dying an early death. A significantly shorter lifespan. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Okay, so we're all responsible for that. So I put the links to my Ancient Ibaryath books and classes in the description area of this video. All right, so if you want to gain control back of your mind, your body, and your life, start now, order those books, come to our Saturday class at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, enroll in the online course, buy the books. Those are your first steps, all right, toward real freedom, towards the blessings. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1 through 14, right? The extreme material wealth, peace, and health. Also, what else? Wealth, health, peace, wealth, health, peace. What's the other one? Shoot, it escapes my mind. I should have eaten something. Oh, commerce. How can I forget that? Commerce, right? Commerce. Being leaders back to our rightful position as leaders in commerce. Because y'all know that all commerce on the planet is our birthright. That's our birthright. Okay? Commerce and contracts. Okay? We're the occupants, the people. The autochthonous Moors. Genesis chapter 2, autochthonous Moors sprung from the soil, right? We, the people, hold the ultimate power of the three branches of government. Remember, self-government, right? Republican form of government. This is a self-government. You govern yourself. So you're the executive, you're the legislature, and you're the judicial branch. Okay, so when you understand this and when you are in your proper status, when you are living in harmony with nature, that means you have completely abandoned all religious doctrines, concepts, customs, lifestyle, and speak. Meaning you're no longer speaking yourself, cursing yourself through your speech. You're no longer speaking the jurisdiction of maritime admiralty / Roman / Christianity, law, doctrine, religion. Y'all got it? Islam is Christianity. Clear? Now you're in your proper status, and when you have any dispute with the colonist, hybrid or otherwise, with a colonist or a dead person, with a walking, breathing, dead person, a 14th Amendment citizen, a Latino, a black, an African American, etc. You have any type of dispute with them, well, you're the sovereign and you can judge. You can issue the judgment in the case. It's been done. It's already being done, been demonstrated. So you effectively flip the script back to what it's supposed to be. The Moors are the quote-unquote gods on earth. All right? Okay, so let's get into our discussion. I've been going for about 22 minutes with light talk. Let's get into our lesson for today, our presentation, lecture, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so remember we are in the historical Jesus subheading. The whole point of this subheading is to give you information so that you can compare and contrast and do an analysis of the evidence or those matters pertaining to the historical Jesus and those matters pertaining to the allegorical Gospels. Okay, where the Gospels tell the story of the cosmos in an allegorical form that initially the Coptic Egyptians wrote to hide and protect the science, cosmology or astrology, all right, or the Zodiac. You can compare and contrast them and decide for yourself which one is the truth. That's the point of this. All right, so let me go. Oh, you want to pick up where we left off? Watch the video, Who is the Man with the Jug of Water? I believe number 7. Whichever one is before this, immediately before this video, watch that one. So we left off in short where the author brought to our attention that a literal approach to the Gospels, meaning you analyze the language, analyze or consider philology. Okay? For example, architecture, art, mythology, or whatever other disciplines or different kinds of evidence that you can find related to a topic. For example, the etymological meaning of a word. You put all of that together and you do your analysis, which takes confidence, and that is a skill. You get better at it as you do it. Your confidence grows the more you do it, and your skill set grows the more you do it, and you begin to see connections that you don't see or didn't see the more you practice this, okay? So the author has brought to our attention that a purely literal approach to the Gospels destroys any possibility of it being a historical book. In other words, it will prove beyond any reasonable doubt that J.C. the Christ figure never lived as a man or walked on the earth. It'll prove that the Gospels are purely an allegorical story. All right? Purely an allegorical story. Okay? Of the sun's annual journey through each of the 12 zodiac signs and more. All right? It's all cosmological. But the author is saying the gospel still has use. And I agree, the gospel still has use, right? Because it was never intended to be a historical or a biographical work to begin with. So of course, it still has use. In fact, its value is even greater when you can see it for what it is. A lie is a lie, and the truth is a truth. You choose which cup you want to drink from. The lie, which is dirty water, or the truth, which is clean, pure, well mineralized water. Which glass do you want to drink from? So let's get into this. The author is going to give us his reason why people should still continue to read or even believe in JC. I don't know what he's going to say. But let's continue. We're on page 13. But as Rudolf Steiner observed 90 years ago, a quote, dialectical soul constitution. A soul constitution, i.e. a purely intellectual left brain approach, can make nothing of the Gospels, which in the hands of the scholars have become just a well-picked carcass. Y'all see that? The carcass, the Gospels is just like a dead animal. Okay, when you examine it literally. No life in it, no truth in it. It is not a biographical story of J.C. the Christ figure. It is not a historical work. The carcass has been picked even cleaner by the 20th century scholars, and they have done so by making a number of quite arbitrary assumptions. Okay, so I think he's going to point out some errors in the scholars' work, which have been accepted almost unquestioningly as axioms in university departments. For example, Steiner alludes to Schmeidel's principle by which we could accept as authentic the incident in Mark where Jesus is considered, quote unquote, beside himself by his family, but not the transfiguration where JC is shown to be the Son, capital S-O-N, of capital G-O-D, the Son of God. Okay, so now we have the next sentence is in parentheses. The first is probably authentic. So the reasoning goes, because it presents JC unfavorably, right? So JC was beside himself. That means he was irritated or maybe angry. The other is probably spurious because it exalts him. So the other is this title calling JC the Son, capital S-O-N, of capital G-O-D, right? Similarly, scholars realizing that the JC story is a little strange to be considered as literal history have adopted a new historical category called Gestalt. I don't know how to pronounce that. Let me show it. Gestalt. I have no idea. Anyway, which maintains that the gospel stories are not just a record of what happened. Okay, so here's the finesse, y'all. Here's the finesse. So this Escheat category of history maintains that the gospel stories are not just a record of what happened, although to some extent they are a record of what happened, but they are also faith proclamations. Y'all see that? Y'all see that BS? What is this word? Charismatic stories intended to bring people to belief. Did y'all see that? Y'all see what's happening here now? I'll explain it I'll give you my viewpoint in a second. In effect, what they are saying is, to adopt Mr. Spock's famous dictum, quote, "It's history, Jim, but not as we know it," end quote. It's history, talking about Spock from Star Trek. It's history, Jim. Jim is Captain Kirk. It's history, Captain Kirk, but not as we know it. Can y'all see that that's a bunch of BS? The scholars are giving or have created through this new historical category, Escheat, however you pronounce that, they're trying to fix it. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to fix it. They're saying, well, yeah, we know it's not true, and the work we did in the university setting has escaped the universal setting and it's spread amongst the masses. Now we need to figure a way out to get the masses back into belief, right? See, in order for these scholars to have any kind of credibility, let me repeat that, in order for them to have any kind of credibility, they had to deal with the linguistics and the philology. And that was done in-house, inside of the house, right? I guarantee you they never dreamed that their scholarship would escape the universities, that common people would become interested and they would actually be able to read and comprehend it, and that it would spread and gain momentum. All right? Understand? And that to maintain their own position, to be able to keep a job and career, they had to battle what? Battle with biologists, geneticists, and others. Okay? Now, of course, the elites control both sides of the argument, right? But in order to have credibility, both sides need to have a strong argument and have resources, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't believe it. That's why they did that. It's called controlled opposition, right? The biologists, the natural sciences, the natural science professors, biology, the medical sciences, psychology, psychiatry, anthropologists, etc. They're presenting their information, and their whole thing is what? Evolution. But the other side of the argument has to be creationism. Y'all see it? And then within that, there are renegades within each side. Are they controlled opposition within each side? Probably, because it makes it look real, right? Makes you feel like you can trust them. But all of this stuff is orchestrated. You can believe that. And before anybody goes out and starts talking about how amazing science is, and the scientists said this, and science tells us that, unless you yourself go into the laboratory and repeat the experiment exactly and get the same result, keep your mouth shut. Because you don't know what you're talking about. You are believing what someone else did. In science, someone does some research, they present their findings, and then other scientists, they go out and repeat the same experimentation. They do exactly what that person did and see if they get the same results. And then they will say, yeah, well, we got the same result. And others will say, yeah, well, we got the same result. They know. You don't know. Like my mother said, Mama knows, Daddy suppose. So are you not so naive to think that scientists will not collude, get together, and say they got the same results? Even if they did nothing. Or even if they did the experimentation, lie about the result. You think they're beyond doing that, knowing their history? You must be out of your mind. So unless you've done the experiments yourself, keep your mouth shut. Because you don't know. You only know what they put on the paper. And you need to believe that. All right? It's a matter of belief at that point. So don't try to come at anybody speaking with authority about what scientists say, because you don't know if that's true or not. You don't know if the statistics or if these statistical studies that they have done are true or not. If you don't have common sense enough to see that these researchers lie to sell product, to push a political agenda, or let me rephrase it, they lie to push the doctrine of discovery, however that might manifest itself. You don't know science. All right? All right. So let's continue. The carcass has been picked even cleaner by 20th century. So I already read that. So here, they've completely exposed these historical researchers. See, there's a difference between theology and history, completely different. Some people have a PhD in theology. Okay, that's dealing with church doctrine. And history is dealing with history, or what they call secular history and religion. They're different. See, the theology, the scriptures, whatever holy book it is, they say one thing, and that's what they study in theology. In history, they study the history provided by people who are not involved in the religion. There's a difference between theology and history. And they tell two different stories. Okay? All right. The theologian, let's say the PhD, is researching whatever his scriptures say, dealing primarily only with that, and those works that are associated with that, that support it. Whereas the historian, he's got no skin in the game about the theology. The historian is looking at everything, not limited to the scriptures or the holy books, whatever they are, and those books that support them to further the religion. The historian is not concerned about furthering the religion. All right? So there's a big difference. Okay? A big difference. And the historians have pretty much destroyed the idea of a historical JC, the Christ figure. All right? So there are scholars who say, wait a minute, we need to continue the doctrine of discovery. So let's figure a way to get around that. So what are they saying? They're saying it's history, but it's also a matter of belief. Y'all see it? It's history, but also a matter of belief. That's finesse. In the street, we call that bull, S-H-I-T, right? So y'all see how these scholars lie and manipulate. Without the doctrine of discovery, they would have nothing. They don't have a principle to steal your inheritance, your land, your dignity. They don't have a principle to live off of you and to work you. Hold on. And to work you as a bondman or bondwoman. All right? In other words, without the doctrine of discovery, without unum sanctum, they would be clearly criminals, robbers and thieves. Y'all see the distinction? Robbers and thieves, rapists and murderers, slavers. But it is through unum sanctum. The Pope is the vicar of Christ, the representative of JC the Christ figure himself on earth, who is charged with the management of the entire earth and all living things, including Moors. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, autochthonous men and women. The Pope owns you. Through the Catholic Church claim, which is memorialized as a papal bull called Unum Sanctum, which is the authoritative source of the doctrine of discovery, where the Pope authorized, commissioned, and commissioned the European powers. Correlate this with Genesis chapter 1, where the genetically engineered Han-Uman, the colorable mankind, looks like a man, but it is not a man, was commissioned to dominate, gain superiority, quote unquote, white supremacy, gain supremacy over all living things, over the earth and all living things on it. That includes Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, autochthonous Moors, men and women. Y'all see that? This is the authoritative papal bull that the hybrids, and in North America, the doctrine of discovery changed its, actually just the title change. It's the doctrine of discovery, now is called manifest destiny. Correlate that with Genesis chapter 1 and also what? Deuteronomy. You can correlate the doctrine of discovery with Deuteronomy 28 too. Y'all see this? These are the curses. Deuteronomy chapter 28, 15 through 68. Make your correlations. So it is through unum sanctum, the doctrine of discovery, and the doctrine of manifest destiny, that the hybrid troglodyte Paleolithic colonists use to make themselves look legitimate, look like angels, good people. Okay? Take away unum sanctum, take away the doctrine of discovery, take away manifest destiny, and what does that leave them with? Now they become what? Criminals. Criminals. Thieves. Squatters. Y'all see that? So they legitimize themselves through creating these fake laws, fake legal principles to make themselves look legitimate, like they are, quote unquote, God's chosen people. All done through the stroke of a pen. Y'all see how y'all been played? And religion, all of them support this madness. This is the spell. See, you are in the land of Oz. You're believing in religion, you are in the land of Oz. No doubt about it. You are not in the real world. Y'all see that? You're believing, you're seeing and believing things that are not true, that are disconnected from nature. But of course you cannot see that because you're in Oz. And it's a little man pulling levers and pressing buttons, a little hybrid troglodyte nigger. That's the Han Uman, right? The Han Uman, the human, pressing buttons, making you see things that are not there, scaring you to death, punishing you, making you feel lost. You don't know what to do, just like Dorothy and all of her companions. That's what's being done to you. They created fake histories, fake science, fake research results, fake artifacts. Everything is fake. Why? To create a paradigm to keep you in their box. Okay? Because in their box, they are God. And you're just a cow, a horse, a sheep, a chicken. That's it. And they make money off of you. All right? So you're in Oz. I hope that you want to come out of Oz. Somebody wrote let me see if I can get this comment. Mario writes, I am extremely grateful of your videos. I am learning to peel layers like the onion of all the lies. It is taking me a while, and but I am getting there. Excellent, Mario. I'm so happy to hear that. It takes a minute. It takes a minute. But you'll get there. And when you get there, oh man, it's like a ton of weight being lifted off of you. Hold on. There's some construction going on. Give me 1 second. There's some construction going on, y'all, so excuse me. But it's a ton of weights that are lifted off of you. And you won't realize, or most of y'all don't realize, that you are walking around with like rocks, big bricks in your pockets. Rope and twine tying you up, right? You got tape over your mouth. Y'all know, as Christians and religious people, there's certain things you can't say. You might want to say it, but you can't say it. Certain things you might do, but you cannot. Certain goals you want to achieve, but you cannot see yourself achieving it. You are severely limited because you are in Oz. See, there's a whole world out there, and you have powers. You have powers and abilities that are laying dormant, unused inside of you. And you'll never know it until you exit religion. Okay, so let me just say this, Mario, congratulations. And let me just say this, that you are the power. You are the executive, the legislature, and the judicial branch of government. You can render the judgment in a case in your proper status. Speaking natural law jurisdiction. You're the rightful heir of all land. Of all commerce, all contracts, all energy, terrestrial and cosmic. And that is the fact. And it cannot be separated from you. Law and land are inseparable. They go together. Land is the substance and subject matter of the law. Y'all see why? Do you see why they keep calling you niggas, blacks, coloreds, mulattoes, Latinos, Indians, etc.? Y'all see that? Because they get you to admit knowingly or unknowingly, that you are not the rightful heir. Why? Because you disrespect your ancient foremothers and forefathers in violation of Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. You dishonor your ancient foremothers and forefathers. Remember, y'all. Remember, there's a contract. In religion, they call it the Mosaic Covenant that the Most High made with his people. His people are Moors, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. All men who are sprung from the soil. Y'all see that? So they get you to deny who you are. You call yourself African American or black or Indian. And now you have no protection. You're no longer the heir. Okay? They have jurisdiction or authority over you. I need a studio. This is frustrating. All right. So in other words, what the author is saying in the paragraph we have been discussing, I should have eaten something, is that the scholars are telling what they would call little white lies. All right. Well, no, it's not historical. Some of it might be historical, but a lot of it you need to believe. In other words, it's a lie. Y'all see how they're finessing it with this language? Let me read this language again for y'all. Similarly, scholars realizing that the JC story is a little strange to be considered as literal history have adopted a new historical category. See, they just made it up. They made it up to suit their purposes. Their purposes is to keep you in the curses through the implementation of the doctrine of discovery. So they created a new type of history, the Escheat, which means that the gospel stories are not just a record of what happened. Y'all see how vague that is? Not just a record of what happened. That doesn't specifically say that JC, the Christ figure, is a historical person. It says it is a record of what happened. Well, what is what happened? What are you talking about? Y'all see that? Vague, ambiguous language leads you to use your imagination. So maybe you imagine that the author is talking about JC having lived, being a real man. It doesn't say that, but many of you imagined that's what it meant. This is part of narrative transportation. It's not clear what he means by just a record of what happened. Although to some extent they are a record of what happened. Well, is it a record of the cosmos? A record of JC as a living man? A historical biography? Or something else? It's not clear. But they are also faith proclamations. Y'all see that? In other words, they're telling you lies or telling you stories. I soften it up. Telling you stories that are not true, but are that intended to build your faith. Why would you want to have faith in a lie? Why would you want to devote your whole life to suffering, to carrying your cross, like JC the Christ figure did when JC the Christ figure never lived, is not a real person? And in the story, JC never gave his life for you. JC made his escape. And it was Simon the Cyrenian who was hung up on the cross, which we know by applying linguistics. Linguistics tell the story. JC got away, made somebody else pay for his crime. Pisces, duplicity, right? Duality, duplicity, deceit, intentional deceit, lies. So here is another instance of duplicity, intentional deceit. They are faith proclamations. Well, let's call that faith proclamation lies. Call it for what it is, lies. Charismatic stories intended to bring people to belief. Y'all hear that? Stories, not history. Stories, lies. Stories intended, whose purpose is, or the motive is, to bring people to believe. Believe. Be lie. To believe a lie. In effect, what they are saying is, to adopt Mr. Spock's famous dictum, quote, "It's history, Jim, but not as we know it." Is that clear? So imagine someone lies in the court of law. Let's say you're the defense attorney. There's a witness against your client. He gets up there and he tells an obvious lie, right? And then the prosecutor says to the jury, it actually happened, just not the way we know it to have factually happened. That's still perjury. That's still a fraud. But do you see how he couched it? The author and these scholars couched their lies in such flowery, vague, ambiguous language that leaves you or causes you to start to imagine what they're talking about. See, this is magic. They're casting spells with this stuff. That's why when you read, you must read suspiciously. Don't allow someone to activate your imagination. If you activate your imagination, you make sure you do it intentionally and purposefully yourself. All right? Because once your imagination gets activated, that transports you into the story, and by whatever natural means it happens, you can begin to believe the story and to adopt that story as part of your reality and start living your life based upon these lies. We also learned that since the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are in the main composed of apparently unconnected episodes, they must be compilations of remembered events, modified somewhat in the telling, collected by individual evangelists, and strung together arbitrarily like beasts on a chain. In other words, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they're telling completely different stories. And then somebody tried to string them together, to connect them. So in the religion that I was in, the way they dealt with this problem was to say that they all gave their personal account of the story, what they saw, or their personal perspective. That's why their stories are different. That's the way they finessed it, covered over the lie. So there is a asterisk after the word synoptic in synoptic gospels. We're on page 13, scholars. So it reads as follows. The word synoptic means seen together. So the gospels seen together, seen through the same eyes, and refers to the gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which have a common outline of the events of JC's life. So if there's a common outline, it appears to me that the author is going to say the details are different and tell many of the same stories, often with strikingly similar wording. Okay, so you see there was some editing, right? They're using similar wording. So somebody came in and edited, or they wrote these books at the same time, and they edited them together using similar words. Why? To add synergy, to make it believable. Let's continue. They differ markedly, or they differ greatly from John in context, ordering, literary style, and theological presumptions. Y'all hear that? So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are very different from John's gospel. What's different? The content is different. The stories are different. The sequence of when the events of JC's life are different. The literary style, that means the writing style, that means words that they use, okay? Writing style. Everybody has a different writing style. We like to use certain words. We don't use certain words. We like to use certain expressions we don't use or never use, right? We like to put our topic sentence, we have a tendency rather, to put our topic sentence at the beginning of a paragraph, or in the middle, or at the end. Okay? We have a tendency to use certain idioms, or not. Writing style. So the literary writing style is different. Now there's a historical writing style, a theological writing style. There can be an encyclopedic writing style, a narrative writing style, many, many writing styles. And the theological presumptions are also different. For example, I believe it's John is the first time JC is called the Son of God, or the only begotten Son of God. Y'all see that? But not in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. You get the Son of God in John. So there's a difference between being the Messiah and being the only begotten Son of God. All right? Now that puts Christianity and the Jewish religion against each other. Right? Because now JC is the only begotten Son of God. Whereas in Judaism, it's Moses. Moses is the man. In Christianity, it's JC, the Christ figure, who is the man, the lawgivers. All right? Whew. So, I think at some point, scholars, everyone should reflect on, go back and get the Devil's Pulpit, read those topics that have to do with the Coptic Egyptians having written the initial gospel, and how that initial gospel, which was written in Coptic Egyptian, was first translated in Latin, then taken up into Europe, and then translated into Greek by the Goths or the Visigoths. And significant edits were made to make the Christ figure a historical person, to make the Gospels a biographical work about JC's life. Go back and read that, all right? Now, so we know the Coptic Egyptians are, in fact, expert cosmologists, astronomers. In the old days, in ancient times, they called it astrology. Synonyms. We know that the Sabian or Sabian Moors were expert astronomers, astrologists, synonyms in ancient times. Not like today's meaning of astrology, which is hocus pocus, and it's been dirty, given a bad name intentionally. So y'all go back and read those stories. Read about the black priesthood. In other words, black not as in a quote unquote black man, but this is the Saturnalia, the priesthood of Saturn, the priesthood of Saturn, the Saturnalian brotherhood. Y'all go back and read about that. In other words, those who worship the god Saturn. All right? Y'all go back and read that. And then compare that gospel that the Coptic Egyptians wrote, which is an allegorical story, preserving the knowledge of the cosmos in allegorical stories that they call the gospel. And then compare that to the historical JC, the Christ figure. One second. Hold on, y'all. All right. So go back and compare that to the historical JC paradigm, where the Gospels are a biographical work. Okay, documenting the life and times of JC, the Christ figure. Y'all go back, do that little bit of work, and come to your own conclusion. Are the Gospels historic? A historical biography of JC's life? Did he live as a real man? Or are the Gospels an allegorical story? Preserving the knowledge of the cosmos in an allegorical story. Hidden from common people, actually hidden from the Romans and their Moorish and our Moorish traders. Okay? To preserve that knowledge. Why would that need to happen? I've been saying it in the last few videos. Because the Catholics wanted to kill off all of the scientists and engineers, all of the researchers, so that they could dominate the world using religious doctrines, nonsense, anything that they want to make up, which would have the added benefit to them of keeping you in a paradigm where you constantly violate nature. So therefore nature would punish you, which helps them control you. Right? It's not that they're so powerful. They just got nature working against you. That's what's happening. The law of cause and effect is visiting you in a negative way, right? In a way that punishes you. But you can turn that around and have the law of cause and effect visit you in a positive way, where you get the things that you want out of life. All right? In all areas of life. Islam to all the Moors. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. I'm out. I'll see y'all on the next one. Make sure if you are learning and if you feel it in your heart, support my project to write the book of the law in Ancient Ibaryath and modern English to restore it to its original state, where there is natural law phenomena and principles clearly there. It's easy to read. All right. You get the part of speech of every word. You'll get the etymological meanings of every word. All right. You get all of the good stuff. Okay. So if you want to support that project, if you feel it in your heart, my PayPal is paypal.me/Zion Law School. If you want to learn Ancient Ibaryath, or if you want to support me in this way, I have links to many Ancient Ibaryath books that I have written myself. They're in the description area of this video. I teach a Zoom class, a live class, 506 the Curses course, where I go into the curses, Deuteronomy chapter 28, and I do the type of analysis that you'll see in the Devil's Pulpit, but it's a more in-depth and more comprehensive, more in-depth type of analysis. And if you stick with that class, you will learn to translate the Hebrew scriptures, the book of the law, on your own without a teacher. All right? Also have the online 101, the streaming online 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, all right? So subscribe to that. Let me say thank you in advance to everyone who's new if you start supporting me by buying my books, subscribing, or enrolling in any of my classes. So thank you in advance. And for my current supporters, much thanks and gratitude. I'm very appreciative of your support. I'm trying to decide if I want to continue or if I want to take a break, y'all. I feel hungry. At my time, what time is it right now? It is 9:46 in the morning. Y'all know I'm in Vietnam, and I haven't eaten. And I have coffee, but I'm not drinking a lot of the coffee. I can't tolerate a lot of coffee. So let me see what I can do. Y'all want to try to get through one more page? Let's see what's happening on page 14. Despite such academic concessions to liberalism, however, there are many who still claim that the gospel texts show evidence of historical reminiscence. What the heck does that mean? There are many who still claim that the gospel text show evidence of historical reminiscence. Okay, so in other words, there are many scholars who think that there's still some, not all, but some history in the Gospels. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. Paul Barnett argues that the Gospels provide numerous examples of details which could only have come from eyewitnesses. For example, among the evangelists, Mark tells us that JC was asleep on a cushion, quote unquote, asleep on a cushion. That's at Mark 4:38. But before the storm arose on the sea, and that the Gerasene demonic was, quote, crying out and bruising himself with stones, end quote. That's at Mark 5:5. Barnett comments on these and similar passages. These words of Mark leap from the page. These words from Mark leap from the page. To my mind, they can only have come from the memory of someone who was struck by the drama of the scene or its color or sound or strangeness. That's ridiculous. Behind these words, that's ridiculous, that's my comment. Behind these words are recollections of someone who had been present. You'll find this in Barnett, page 92. That's absolutely ridiculous, y'all, on its surface, right? You can look up, you can read any made-up story and find the same type of information. This speaks nothing of truth. Let me tell you what's more true. Imagine you're on a small fishing boat in a lake or an ocean. And there's a storm coming. And the water, the waves rising and falling. Now you get these big waves. Okay, now you're in the fishing boat. That means the boat is going up and down. Are you going to sleep through all of that, or are you going to wake up? Be honest. Is that going to wake you up? Don't say it's because JC was not afraid. Being afraid is not what's going to wake you up. What's going to wake you up is when your brain, your mind starts to notice that you're going up and down. Okay? What's that going to do to your equilibrium? You're going up and down, rocking back and forth. Okay? That's going to awaken you from sleep. So it's ridiculous on its surface. When you think about this analytically, everybody else in the boat are afraid for their lives. if they're afraid for their lives, do you think they're making noise? Some of them screaming, some of them trying to find something to hold on to or anchor themselves to the boat. But yet you sleep past all of this. You don't hear the screams, the fear. You don't hear stuff moving. You can't feel the rocking back and forth, the up and down. Y'all know that will wake you up. It'll make you dizzy. Probably make you throw up. Maybe the temperature went from being hot or warm or cool to being cold. Right? Maybe there was a change in the temperature. And if the boat is rocking back and forth, let's say JC is laying on the floor or he's laying in the bed. Why wouldn't he have been thrown off of the bed? Or the position that he was laying in, why wouldn't he have shifted position? Right? Due to the swinging and his weight. So it doesn't make any sense that someone would sleep through a violent storm. That's my point. All right? Let's see what else we got. I'm going to stop right here. Shalom, y'all. Islam.